Chapter 38 is going to focus on angiosperms specifically, so flowering seed plants, and how they reproduce. So I want to start with the general life cycle of a plant. And this is a fairly complex life cycle compared to things like animals and fungi, and it's called alternation of generations. The term alternation of generations comes from the fact that there's two different types of generations. So if I draw a line through the middle here, we can see that above the line we have this light blue color. This is our haploid generation, and the plant that we see here is going to be called the gametophyte. And so that means the gamete plant, phyto is plant, and the gametophyte makes gametes. So gametophyte makes gametes. Everything here is haploid. The other generation is a diploid generation called the sporophyte. And the sporophyte makes spores. So each one of these is named for the product that it's going to make. The reason this is alternation of generations is because we have bodies here that are multicellular. So humans, our only multicellular body is diploid. You make gametes, they are eggs and sperm, they exist for a little bit, and then immediately we reform that into a diploid zygote. Plants don't do that. Plants actually have an extra step in there where they have a multicellular haploid body. So let's start here with the sporophyte. So specifically in angiosperms, this 2N sporophyte, this is the plant that you see in your yard, and it's got flowers on it, and those flowers have stamens and pistils that are producing spores. So your diploid flower is going to go through meiosis to create different spores. And in angiosperms, we know we have heterospory, so we might produce male spores as well as female spores. When we follow these spores, meiosis takes us from 2N to N. So meiosis is always when we enter the gametophyte range. So anything that was haploid is going to be considered part of the gametophyte generation. One of those spores is going to develop into a multicellular gametophyte. So for females, this is going to be the megaspore is going to turn into the gametophyte. And then in males, this is the pollen grain is going to turn into the sperm cell and the tube cell. But both of those, the female gametophyte and the male gametophyte, are multicellular. Then those multicellular organisms are going to make gametes. We're not using meiosis here. We already did meiosis. Every time we do mitosis, we're just making clones of those original haploid cells. So if this is a gamete, this is either an egg or a sperm. In order to make a new plant, to make the next generation, we need two gametes to come together in this process of fertilization. So fertilization is where these two haploid gametes are going to fuse to make a diploid zygote. Zygote is the very first cell of the next generation. So this would be the offspring. And in this case, that is a plant embryo that's going to become encased inside of a seed. And then eventually that seed is going to germinate and develop and turn into a multicellular plant again. And then we're back where we began with eventually a mature sporophyte with flowers and the ability to go through meiosis and start this process of reproduction over again.